Namaste, nerds. It's Navana, Budget Pub Stomper, and I hope you guys are ready to be unified in a grandiose way. This is Deck Tech on Atraxa Grand Unifier. Never thought I would see the day where we'd be able to do a legit Atraxa Grand Unifier for $100. But if we can do TNT in this economy, why not, right? And I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're thinking. I think what you're hearing. All of the above. Foodchain, too expensive. How can we build Atraxa without Foodchain? We didn't. We are playing Foodchain. Yeah, it's and I'm a little under the weather, guys. I'm on a little I hate calling it a business trip. That's not right. A work trip, we'll say. I'm at a convention. It's terrible and awful, and everybody came from the airport all sick, and now I'm sure I have scabies and COVID and probably HIV from the airport and all. But this isn't about my venereal problems. This is about Atraxa, the Grand Unifier. So yeah, let's talk about the deck. What does the deck do? Well, what it's trying to do is there's a few things it's trying to do. Number one, it's trying to stay alive. It's trying to, look guys, the $100 meta has shifted in a pretty big way. There's some kind of big things happening, and I would say that there's two main culprits. There's two major culprits, and it's the same mofo that brought I'm calling you out. Vizfiv. The reason I can't think of his name is because it's not a real name. It doesn't make sense in any language. I know he's not American, but that's no excuse to have a name that doesn't make sense in any language. Viz. So Viz5, very good, good player, great player, and prolific deck builder in the $100 budget meta. Has brought to bear upon us a couple different scourges, and they're both in very opposite ends of the spectrum. One is Ral, and the other is Timna and Rog. No, that's not right. Rogthras. Budget, cradle, tree farm kind of stuff. And the grindy, kind of fast Rog turbo cradle type thing. Obviously, we're talking about Gaia's Cradle Light. We're talking about Ulamog, but we're also talking about like Seedborn Muse and all of those things with Thrasios. So we've got this kind of real grindy stuff that's starting to happen. Like Kinnan decks are starting to adopt that sort of grindy kind of Thrasios tech, and there's decks like TNT that you can build now. I mean, the meta is shaking up on that end of the spectrum, but we're not too worried about that end of the spectrum. I think Atraxa can go over the top of that end of the spectrum. The other big shift is these turbo decks. Like, for one thing, Selvala is faster than it's ever been, and I'm not the only one that's built a Selvala deck. I know that for sure. So there's other Selvala decks running around out there, but Ral. This is something that I did a deck tech. Go and watch the deck tech. I don't think there's been that much change with the deck since I did the video. I did like an interview video deck tech type thing with the pilot and the brewer of $100 Ral. But I think he's just gotten better at playing it. And I no shit, I kid you not, I had a really good hand the other night, and I had it was just going to be like a real nice curve, turn 1 tap land, like one of the depletion lands, and to turn 2 Malcolm, and to turn 3 Kedis, hold up the offer you can't refuse, and then I had a piece of an engine after, like I had like everything. I was like all rolled up, and I did not even get a turn 1. He literally murdered us on turn 1. Never seen it happen on a budget before, on a $100 budget before. That's a first, hopefully an only. But he just went like Simian Spirit Guide and Rite of Flame, and here's a Mind Sticker Goblin that makes 6 mana. Boom. Have a nice day. I win. Shuffle up. So, no, that's obviously a bit of a fluke, right? That doesn't happen ever. But it can happen. And it did happen, and I saw it happen in a game. And we were playing on the computer where everything was randomized. It's not. We were playing on Untap. So all that to say, like, the deck is legitimately murdering the table on turn, usually more like turn 3. But I've seen plenty of turn 2 wins, and I've now seen a turn 1 win. So all that to say, the meta is shifting in terms of turbo. Like, speed is a real thing. Even at a $100 budget, decks are fast right now. And so we have to have a bunch of very cheap interaction. I mean, it's totally defensible to play cards like Strict Serenade, and even the worst version of Strict Serenade right now. 1 blue mana, counter target creature spell if it has like power and toughness less than whatever. It's like a cut down counter spell kind of a thing. That's totally defensible right now. Strict Serenade, totally defensible. I think we're playing too many colors where we really don't have a good reason to run like a Strict Serenade, because we've just got Swords to Plowshares, and on that tip we've got Swords to Plowshares and Path to Exile and Fatal Push and Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares and Fatal Push. That's only 1 mana, but really, like, if we can answer it on turn 1 or 2, that's fine, right? Which we can do with Abrupt Decay and Memory Lapse, and there's ways. We've got ways, Mana Leak. So we're pretty well equipped, but you have to be. So the first thing we're doing, first and foremost, our game plan is to not die to a turn 2 Ral. Beyond that, we're trying to ramp as fast as possible. Really, I don't want to say we're here to ramp as fast as possible into an Atraxa. That's what I do in Goldfishing. I want to make sure that this thing can consistently come down on turn 4, and it can, no problem. I've gotten it turn 3 plenty of times. But mainly we want to hold up interaction while we're fishing for our combo. The main combo, I mean, there's lots of synergies in the deck. Like there's ways to cast your Atraxa and kind of draw a bunch of cards and get a bunch of get a deep look at cards, 10 cards, find the ones you want, and then go again, right? We can flicker it, we can bounce it and replay it with a Sky Turtle, or exile it with a what the hell is it called, Soul Partition, and recast it. That kind of thing we can do, but the real plan is we want to go Eternal Scourge into exile, Mist Hollow Griffin into exile, however we can manage that, and get our Foodchain in play. And so let's start by reading the commander, and then we're going to go through the Foodchain thing. Okay, Atraxa is a lot of mana, 7 mana, but this deck is just nothing but mana. Mana, interaction, and the win cons. That's it. This is for 7 mana, stands red. Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink, 7/7. When it ETBs, you look at the top 10 cards of your library, and then you choose one of every type. Put it in your hand. So you get massive card selection. You get a real deep dig. Usually this is going to end up finding you at least a tutor, if not multiple ways to tutor the things that you need. What are the things that you need? Glad you asked. We are going to be looking for, I mean, it can be Divining Witch. This is like Demonic Consultation on a stick. It's 2 mana, and then you can activate it for 2 mana. Discard a card. It's like one of those spell shapers that, and then you get a copy of Demonic Consultation. Name a card, exile the top 6 of your library, and then you just go until you find the card that you named. Most of the time, that card is going to be Foodchain, and you're going to hope to exile one of your cast from exile creatures on your way to Foodchain. That's the idea. That's the deep hope, right? So, Eternal Scourge and Mist Hollow Griffin say, very simply, you can cast them from exile. Foodchain says, for 3 mana, it's an enchantment. It says, remove a creature you control from the game. In other words, exile a creature. Add X mana of any color to your mana pool, where X is 1 plus that creature's mana value. So if you exile a 3 mana creature, you add 4 mana to your mana pool, any color. You can only use that mana to cast spells, creature spells. But that's all we want to do with it, because all we want to cast with it is we want to cast Mist Hollow Griffin or Eternal Scourge. So we cast the Eternal Scourge, we exile it to the Foodchain. So now we have 4 creature mana. We use 3 of that creature mana to cast Eternal Scourge. Then we have 1 floating. After we exile it again, we'll have 2 floating. So we're going to cast the Eternal Scourge, exile it to the Foodchain, make 1 more mana than it costs to cast every time. And so you get infinite mana, but you can only use the infinite mana to cast creature spells. But we have an outlet for that in the command zone. So we just go through and we make every color we need. if that's not clear how you do that, let's say we're going to exile a Mist Hollow Griffin. We cast it for 4. We exile it. That adds 5 mana, and we'll just say we're going to add 5 black. And then we're going to, 5 blue. And then we're going to cast it again for blue. And then we're going to exile it and make 5 blue. And then we're going to cast it again for 4 blue. And we're going to exile it to make 5 blue. We're going to keep doing that until we've got, say, 1 billion blue mana. Then we're going to start using that blue mana to cast it, but then exile it for black mana. And then cast it for the blue and exile it for black. And you just do that over and over, and then you've got infinite blue and black mana. You do that again for white mana, and then you do that again for green mana, and then you've got 1 billion of every color of mana that you need to cast your Atraxa, which you'll get the ETB. Look at the top 10 cards of your library, choose one of each type. So a creature, a sorcery, an instant, so on. And then we're going to exile Atraxa to the Foodchain, and we're going to put the Atraxa in our command zone. And we're going to cast it with our infinite mana, get the ETB again, and then we're going to exile it to our Foodchain again, and then we're going to cast it again and get the ETB again, and then we're going to exile it to our Foodchain again, so on and so forth until you get to basically exile your entire, draw your entire deck. So you draw all of the cards that are in your deck, and you literally do, and then you can just cast them. You'll have infinite creature mana, but you'll also have ways to convert your mana. There's rituals. You'll have all your rituals, all your mana rocks. You'll have everything you need to win the game. And we're just going to win with a Laboratory Maniac or a Jace. This was hard to squeeze in here. Having the Jace is like... there's an argument, I think, for just going Jaceless. But, man, I hate having just one win condition. Then if you're in a pinch and you have to exile your... Well, even if your dude just gets exiled, if your Laboratory Maniac gets exiled, then you are just toast. So, we did end up having to cut... We had to cut some stuff. It's not free. It's up to $4, and this is the cheap version. I'm glad the cheap version is the coolest version. Isn't that a badass version? I have no idea why that's the cheap version, but it is right now at least. We're going to use Foodchain to make infinite Atraxa mana. We're going to use Atraxa over and over to exile, to draw all of our cards in our deck. And then once we don't have any cards in our deck, we're going to cast Jace, and then we're going to plus the Jace to draw from an empty library and win the game. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to win with infinite Foodchain mana. We've got tricks. First of all, we've got tons and tons of dorks. We've got a hell of a dork package. Avacyn's Pilgrim. We get to play all the good ones. Well, not all the good ones, but we get to play some of the good ones. We get to play Elvish Spirit Guide. Avacyn's Pilgrim because we're using white mana. Elves of Deep Shadow because we're using black mana. And then we've got our normal dorks, and these are particularly good when you're playing Foodchain deck because each of your dorks can be tapped for 1 mana and then exiled for 2 more. So if you have your Foodchain in play and you've got some dorks in play, sometimes you'll just go ahead and exile them to cast Atraxa, get your ETB, then exile Atraxa to the Foodchain to go up to enough mana to recast your Atraxa again. And hopefully you'll find more creatures to exile to your Atraxa, and maybe you can pop off a little bit and maybe exile or cast Atraxa even without the combo 2-3 times in the same turn. And then it's going to be hard for you to lose that game. But we have to make it to that portion of the game, which is where our 23 card instant suite comes into play. We've got it all, Arcane Denial, Autumn's Veil to protect our stuff, Dispel, Drown, Muddle is a tutor, Memory Lapse. Then we've got some kind of cool stuff. We've got Vanishing Verse. You don't see that every day. It's fantastic. This is Exile Target Mono-Colored Permanent. That's super duper good. But there's some cool stuff I want to talk about that I don't play in many decks, but Demonic Bargain, this is another reason I decided to play Jace, is because it allows me to play Demonic Bargain. Now, you could get super unlucky and exile both of your things you need not to exile, but basically this is Demonic Tutor for 3 mana, but you have to exile the top 13 cards of your library. Now, the hope here is when you cast Demonic Bargain that you're going to exile one of your 2 cast from exile creatures. That's what you're really hoping. On your way to finding Foodchain. Kind of the same thing as with Divining Witch. If you've got Divining Witch in play, you can name Foodchain, and there's a reasonable chance that while you're looking for your Foodchain with your Divining Witch, that you're going to exile one of your 2 casts from exile creatures. So in a way, the Divining Witch becomes a 1-card win condition. I think I might blow my nose. We're going to pause. Forget you heard that. I'm going to take that out in post, fucker. You'll never know. Good, I'm glad I've got these tools. They'll never know that I was super sick and had to, or that crazy whack stuff I was saying before that. Okay, we're back. No idea where I was outside of something about being super sick. You know, it's not the kind of sick where blowing your nose does anything. I'm not like runny, I just can't breathe. But you don't need to know that. You need to know about Eternal Scourge and exiling it with Divining Witch. So if we exile our Eternal Scourge or Mist Hollow Griffin on our way to the Foodchain, then we can cast those cast from exile creatures from exile. Demonic Bargain can kind of work the same way, hopefully. Get a little lucky, don't get a little unlucky, exile one of those 2 on your way to Foodchain, and then you just have the whole combo. And we do have some other kind of cute stuff. Now there's some things in the considering pile that I would really love to get in this deck. I mean, all of this stuff really just belongs in the deck, but can't play it all. We're on a $100 budget. Plunge into Darkness is another one. You can use this as it's another one of your kind of forbidden tutors. In the early days of cEdh, there used to be what they call the 3 forbidden tutors. Plunge into Darkness, Demonic Consultation, and Tainted Pact. People don't really play Plunge into Darkness anymore, but I think part of the reason is because people don't really play like dedicated, like this is a Foodchain deck type decks anymore in cEdh. There's decks that will have Foodchain in them, but Atraxa is like the only true blue, like really I don't even know if Atraxa is quite a Foodchain deck. Not in the same way that like Kazuru Kima used to be back in the day. But I really would like to get at least a couple Planeswalkers in. You want to have in this type of a deck, well, when you're building specifically Atraxa Grand Unifier, you want to have a nice big spread of all the different types, right? Because if you flip the top 10 cards off of your library and it's all creatures and instants, then you only got to draw 2 cards. But if you get a Planeswalker and a sorcery and an instant, you know, so you really want to have a good spread. Like I had almost no sorceries. And I'm like, man, I've got to get some sorceries in here. So just for instance, we cut the Eternal Witness to play the Regrowth. We got Culling Ritual, which just, well, that just belongs in the deck. I had just kind of forgotten that one. But you want to have some of everything. But I've only got 1 Planeswalker. I'd like to remedy that. Like I cut one of the Dorks to get Wild Growth in, because we want to have some enchantments. Because if you hit an enchantment when you're looking at the top 10 cards of your library with Atraxa, it's just a free bonus card. So instead of playing Dam, we're playing Amphibian Downpour, which is really a very good card. I mean, this is like a sick card. It's really a board wipe. Well, it can be a board wipe, but it's one of these that sticks. Well, it says 3 mana, flash. It's an enchantment, aura with Storm, and it says enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog creature with base power and toughness 1/1. So you can stick people's commanders to the battlefield with this. And if you cast like 3 spells and then cast this, you can, even 2 spells and then cast this, you can get everybody's commander. And if you have a storm count of, say, 2 or 3, you can point it all at the one thing you really need to get rid of, and then they'd have to counterspell it, 3, 4, 5 times. So Amphibian Downpour is really a very good card. Probably a little bit slept on. It's $1.64. Definitely worth it, and especially in this deck where there's you get a little extra bang for the buck from it being a type of card that we don't have an abundance of. But being that we're so spread out like this, I also think that's another reason that we might really want to cram this Demonic Council. But so if you're going to build the deck, look at this list and the considering, and really do consider some of these cards. Plunge into Darkness, it's does double duty. Well, It's got 2 modes, but mainly we want it for the pay X life. Look at the top X cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand, and remove the rest from the game. So if you have 30 life, you can look at the top, 28 cards, and look for your food chain. And as long as one of those cards was either Mist Hollow or what's the other one? As long as one of them was Mist Hollow and the other one was Eternal Scourge, you exile the cast from exile creature, you cast your food chain, and you win the game. So yeah, these should be in the deck, all of them. But there's a budget. Do we have to? I wanted to talk a little bit about the Dorks suite. Well, we did talk a little bit, but there was one I missed. Febrile Elder. If you have on your Atraxa, well, boy, just all over the place. This is just a super powerful creature. We've got a pretty good little spread of permanent types and, the colors of our permanents. Let's say we've got a Destiny Spinner, a Divining Witch, and an Amphibian Downpour all in play. And then, or if you just have your commander in play. A lot of the time, this is going to be tapping for 2, 3, or even 4 mana. If it's once you've got your commander out, obviously it taps for 4 mana. But not only that, but it taps for 4 mana, and it can be exiled for 4 mana. So if you've got your food chain and your Atraxa, even before you've found your cast from exile creature, you can tap the Febrile Elder and then feed it to food chain, and then feed your Atraxa to food chain, and probably you'll get to cast the Atraxa two more times off of that. And likely then you're going to find your piece. You're going to find the missing piece. Culling Ritual, it's another way to make sure that we make it past the early game. It's real good at wiping out Kinnons and Rals, and not so much Sylvalas, but lots of the things. Magdas, it's good at wiping the board. This thing is just, it's a house. In budget competitive, I think it's better than it is in cEdh. And in cEdh, it's an absolute house. I think it might be the best card in Golgari for competitive commander. I mean, for budget or just for cEdh, I think it's probably the best. I think it, legitimately, I think it is. It's probably better than Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, so on. I think it's number one. Number one. I sound like an idiot. I'm playing all of the mana rocks. We're playing all the good mana rocks. I'm playing the Signets. I'm playing the Talisman. We want, first of all, a nice spread of artifacts, but secondly, we want to have all the mana. That's the plan. The plan is to weather the early storm with lots and lots of interaction, turn 1 interaction, turn 2 interaction. Then we're going to try to assemble our combo. And we're basically just a food chain deck, right? We're just trying to put our food chain combo together. And we've got tons of tutors. We've got Limdol's Vault, and we've got Perplex, which is a transmute, which transmutes into a food chain. And we've got, there's a really cool one that I haven't discussed with y'all yet. We have not talked about, where are you? Manipulate Fate. For 2 mana, sorcery, so this is another sorcery. There's 2 versions of this exact card, but I decided that I took one out for a land. I think that 34 is the proper number of lands in this deck. You want to hit your land drops every turn. And I think 34 is the number for control-y decks that have to hit their land drops every turn, or really want to hit their land drops every turn, especially if you're not drawing a ton of cards early on. Like, we're a control deck, we're a food chain combo deck, but we're a control deck. Really, we are a control deck at heart. And right about the time we're running out of gas so that the other decks can start to overtake us and we're sputtering out, that's right about the time we're able to cast Atraxa and fuel back up, or hopefully find our combo and go. But Manipulate Fate allows you to search for 3 cards, remove them from the library, and then draw a card also. So this is going to find your Eternal Scourge and your Mist Hollow Griffin and remove them from the game, which is where you want them anyway. So it's a tutor for you that also draws a card. We've got the other 3 mana transmutes, one of them. Drift of Phantasms. We can't play them all. There's like too many. We have access to too many tutors to play them all. That's our problem. Moon Blessed Cleric. This is 4 mana in a Foodchain if you feed it to a Foodchain. Plus, it'll put Foodchain on top of your deck for you. So it's a perfect include for this deck. Ornithopter is a, quote, mana rock, but it's an artifact and it's a creature. So you can take it for the artifact or the creature. So it's got a little extra goodness in this deck, right? I thought about playing like all of them, the mirror, but I decided not to go. I thought that might be a bridge too far. But Priest of Titania is nuts in budget. There's always some asshole playing Dorks. I mean, I'm usually the asshole, but there's always some asshole playing Dorks. So this counts the elves in play, not the elves under your control. So this counts everybody's Dorks. You can usually count on this to produce at least 1 extra mana. So normally this is a 2 mana, just tap for 2. But a lot of times it's a lot more than that. Sometimes you'll have 2 Dorks out, somebody else will have 2 Dorks out, and the thing taps for 5 mana, which is almost an Atraxa. Yeah, I mean, like with your lands and a mana rock, So we're doing the thing. That's what we're doing. The deck does the thing. What is the thing? The thing is, Ring Sight. Ring Sight is slept on. For budget, fantastic. This is one that says, the ring tempts you. Search your library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature you control. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. People misunderstand that. They think that you have to have your commander out or a legendary creature in play because it says that on the ring. On the ring? No, it says that on the card. But what you're probably or you might be missing, what people miss is that Ring Sight says the ring tempts you, and what that means is one of your creatures turns into a legendary creature, so you can always tutor for something. So whatever creatures you have in play, you can tutor for anything that's their colors. If you have your commander in play, obviously it'll tutor for anything in your deck. Well, that's not true. It won't find your Eternal Scourge. But yeah, it won't find artifacts because they don't have a color. Volatile Stormdrake, good card, 39 cents. You're playing blue, you play the card. And that's the deck, guys. Do we have time for Goldfishing? I kind of feel like I should go buy medicine. We do have time for Goldfishing. What time is it in real life? It is 10 o'clock. I should go buy medicine. Well, shit, I can't take like ephedrine or something at this time, at this hour. That's crazy. What are you, crazy? People sound nuts. Let's goldfish. Let's do just a little bit of goldfishing. Let's do a little fishing. Hide you. And we'll go to the playtester. Discard this. This is our first 7. It sucks that we can't play this guy turn 1. That's a little rough. I think we keep it. It's fine. We don't have any early interaction. We've got 1 piece of early interaction. This would be very pod dependent. We're not gonna try to outrace anybody. Let's just keep it and see what this would have looked like. Draw for turn. Really doesn't matter what land we play. Probably a blue, and we pretend like we're smart enough to hold up interaction. Go to our next turn, and we go. Again, doesn't much matter. Probably we play the Dork, so that next turn we can rock. Into roll. Again, doesn't really matter. 1. Bop. Not like that. 2. Bop. Let's do it this way. Then we go tap these 2 to play that one. Then we go to our next turn and we're doing Atraxa. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Atraxa. Look at the top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Damn. 8. That's a bad. 9, 10. Yeah, that was a shitty one. We only got 3 cards off of that. But we get a lot of selection, and we're going to do it again. So probably take Gemstone. No, we might want permanent mana. Probably the Thran Quarry. Again, this would be pod dependent. If we're not worried about anybody blowing up our... Well, yeah, we don't care about nobody's going to blow up our Dork. I mean, they might blow up Atraxa, but we'll still have our Dork. So Thran Quarry is probably the land. I don't feel like pretending like I can count, so Talisman will be the Talisman. So that's a land, an artifact, and an instant. Again, totally pod dependent. We either take a piece of removal or a piece of counter magic. And then the rest of these go to the bottom. All right, so that's us doing the thing. We hold up a fatal push, and then on our next turn, we can do it again. We can cast Touch the Spirit Realm for a white and a colorless to flicker our Atraxa and get the ETB again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we get one instant. At this point in the game, it would probably be Drown in the Loch, or maybe Path. And then our creature would be, who knows, maybe Priest. And our land would be a forest. And our food chain would be a food chain. Bottom all this. U2. Oops. All right, and then we would cast our food chain maybe. And we'd only have kept the Drown in the Loch if we could use it to protect our food chain. Obviously, otherwise we would have kept the other one. But we had a counterspell, right? Whatever. So we're going to play our food chain. And if nobody stops us at this point, we are going to exile the Atraxa to the food chain, making 8 mana. And we're going to pay our command tax and cast an Atraxa. Get the ETB again. 1, 2, 3, oops, 4, 5, that's a lot of lands. 6, 7, 8, 9, Jesus, 10. I swear there are sorceries and instants in this deck. Sweet. So we're there. We're there. So now we actually got a decent spread on that one. So we take a creature, we take an enchantment, we take a sorcery, and we take an artifact. And then the idea would be to cast our demonic bargain and be just a little bit short of being able to win on this turn. Just a tiny bit. We actually could win on this turn, right? We go 1, 2, 3. We cast this as long as we get, well, I mean, we'd have to get super lucky, right? So we are going to remove the top 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No such luck, but we just tutor for the cast from exile piece anyway. That goes in our hand. And then we exile the Atraxa to the food chain. Move it to the command zone. So we just made 8 mana. And we use 3 of that to cast the Eternal Scourge. And then we exile the Eternal Scourge to the food chain and make 4 mana of whatever color. And we cast the Eternal Scourge with that 4 mana. We have 1 floating. We feed it to the Foodchain for 4 mana. So now we'll have 5 floating, and we'll cast it from exile. We'll have 2 floating, and we'll exile it. And iterate after iterate after iterate after iterate, we will make infinite mana of every color. And then we will cast our fucking commander. And we'll just keep doing that over and over and over until we find the pieces that are requisite to murder. We need the requisite murder pieces. I think that's going to do it, guys. I think I'm going to go downstairs and see if I can find some medicine that is not going to keep me up all night. Yeah, so hopefully you got something out of the video. I know I did. I got a hell of a headache out of the video. Yeah, I think I literally just you heard me getting sicker and sicker in real time. I'm kind of a mess now. So enjoy that, you fuckers. Until next time, namaste, word to your mothers, and all of that. Peace. No, not peace. Violence. War. And namaste, homies.